able to begin doing classrooms again. So there hasn't been any. The other thing we asked is if there's been any complaints. The building is a commercial use building, so there are no residences. And there have been no complaints issued to the district office through Jesse, and the applicant had no complaints that they could provide to us. So I'll open up for questions. Let's start with the people who I can see visually. If you want to raise your hand, I'll call on you. And then Twee or Betty, you're on the phone. Do either of you have a question?
I have
How do you raise your hand? I don't see that.
Okay, Mike, do you have a question?
Yes, how do you raise your hand?
There's at the bottom of the attendees participants list on your screen, there's a little hand that looks like a little waving hand. You click on that and your hand will be raised.
Well, I tell you, it ain't there.
It isn't there on mine either.
No.
Well, okay. Mike, do you have a question?
No, well, I do. Just because it's a standard question, there's no CrossFit type activity at this place, right?
Currently, given the COVID crisis and consistent with the city regulations, the gym and clients are using the gym equipment. Everything's being wiped down and all the proper precautions are being taken, but there are currently no classes taking place at the location.
And if I can,
and hi, this is Adam Shane from Barry's. Hi, this is Adam Shane from Barry's.
Hold on. Mike, to follow up a little further on that question, if it's CrossFit, they don't have the same sort of equipment as a CrossFit gym, and and I think the underlying question of you, it might be that the weight dropping, which does not occur in this gym, there is no like raising up of weights and dropping them down to the floor. But Adam was trying to speak, so I'll ask Adam to clarify.
Yeah. Hi, thank you, Mike. This is Adam Shane. I'm the Chief Development Officer at Barry's. Been with the company 8+ years. We are not CrossFit. Our workout program, which has been there since this is our first New York studio that opened in 2011. It's strength training and cardio equipment. So you're running on a treadmill and you're doing lightweight training and resistance training on the floor, but no CrossFit-like workout at all.
Mike, does that answer your question?
Oh yeah, thanks a lot. Very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Twee, did I hear you raise your voice?
Yes, I have 3 questions.
So,
you just said that one floor is 5297 square feet. The other floor is 4266 square feet. That equals 9563 square feet. But page 9 of 11 says 9545 square feet. Why is there the discrepancy?
That might just be an error on my part, but I can confirm that number and get back to you. That's okay?
Yes, please. Yeah,
Sure.
Because my next question has to do with the fact that the photos seem to be taken from the old application. Did you have any more recent photos to provide? Because the old photo just show the word Barry's. They don't say boot camp. And I believe Paul and Betty can confirm that it would have said boot camp on the sign. The picture doesn't reflect that. And the page, I think it was page 3 of 11. So I
provide some updated photos. That's no problem.
Hi, this is Adam Shane again. Just to let everybody know, our company did go through an updated branding a few years back and took the word boot camp out of all of our branding and signage and on all of our studios in the country because we are not a boot camp. And so right now our company does go by the word Barry's, and that is how we're known in the industry.
When was it taken down?
Good question. I don't have the exact date. I know our company went through an enhanced branding to soften our brand so that people wouldn't misconstrue us for a typical boot camp.
Okay, because the last photo I see is from October 2019. That's why. But related to photos, my third and last question is, if the interior changed in that there wasn't any restroom installed anymore downstairs, shouldn't we see interior photos too?
The configuration differs slightly from the approved plans, but was changed during construction to increase the fitness and storage areas and remove the lounge area and bathrooms. Everything's still ADA accessible via, and there's two means of egress for fire as well. So the space is substantially compliant at this point with the changes. These are just minor changes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tree. Betty, do you have anything to add?
No, but when we get to the vote kind of thing, I just want to suggest that we reuse the conditions that were in the second letter the community board wrote. There were two conditions. We recommended approval and there were two conditions, but we're not up to that stage. We're doing the discussion now, but since I'm on the phone, I just wanted to call that out to you. Paul, can you hear me?
Yes, okay. All right, any other questions from anybody? Pam?
Just not a question, but a comment. I live a block away from this facility, and I remember the initial submissions and the 2014 as well. I have never heard a bad word about these people within the community, and I think I would have. It's not within my block association, but it is definitely a close by neighbor, and the park is right there now, which didn't exist when this place came in. I don't have any misgivings about saying that I think these guys are fine and will continue to be just fine neighbors in the community.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. All right, anybody else on the phone have any questions? Then let's move forward. Anybody who would like to propose a motion? Looks like Carrie's leaning in.
I will propose a motion, but do we want to hear Betty's two conditions first? Or
yeah,
do we not?
They're in the.
Well, okay.
I can read them, Betty.
Well, I can read them. Let me get
Okay.
the letter. But I don't know if I can start the ball rolling, but we could, I propose that we recommend approval and that it have the two conditions we had for.
I have them in front of me, Betty, if you want me to read them.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you do it. You do it.
All right, so a condition, the approval on the condition that point one, programming will either not include potentially disruptive activities or will demonstrate conclusively with an acoustical engineering report that equipment use in classes will not disturb other commercial tenants in the building. And point two, if operation of the facility leads to complaints from commercial tenants above or from the community, the operators of Barry's Boot Camp will attend meetings set up by the board and quickly take any steps necessary to correct the problems leading to those complaints.
That's it.
So those are,
to the
will I make a motion to approve?
So Carrie's making the motion to approve with those two conditions. Is there a second? Marty, I'm seeing your second. Great. Jesse, how are we going to handle a vote? So I think what we're going to do.
We can just raise hands if you want to say, and actually the reality, if anybody is in opposition, it's more about if someone is opposition or P&E or abstaining. That's right. And I can.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is ask. So I'm going to ask this. I'm going to assume approval, and people can wave their hands or nod their heads for those that can be seen. Is there anybody who is opposed to speak up?
This is Twee, I abstain.
Well, okay, so that's not an opposed. Is there anybody who abstains? Twee. Is there anybody present not eligible? All right, so Jesse, it looks like approval with all members present except for one abstention from Twee.
I believe we've been joined by Viren as well. I don't know. I tried to give him access to speak, but just he is on the phone.
Sounds like Viren's here.
Yes, and you heard me loud and clear.
There we go.
Viren is here. All right, very good.
Viren, did you vote? So you went for approval on this too, right?
Yes, that's why I kept quiet.
Perfect.
Okay. Viren, I'm on the phone too. Don't feel bad.
Viren, Twee, and Betty. All right, so Joe and Adam, thank you very much for your attendance and your patience and lovely presentation in our terrible technical situation.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for your time.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Thanks, Adam. You're welcome to stay for more of us if you'd like. You know.
Appreciate the invitation.
All right, so next on the agenda is the Flixbus proposal. We have reviewed this proposal before. There's currently a temporary parking loading and unloading. They are seeking a special permit and a zoning text amendment. We've met with them a couple of times. They are asking to do a informational session with us to get our thoughts on this proposal. We had sent them some correspondence asking for some specific points to be covered. Because they're not certified at Department of Planning, this is just an informational session, so there will not be a vote on this unless they tell us differently in the presentation. So Jesse, can you help lead the guests to get that presentation rolling?
Dan, are you with us?
Yes, hello.
Okay. Is the rest of are there any of your team there with you?
It's just me. I believe we also have on the line a representative from the property owner.
Okay.
Yes, hi everybody. This is Isaac Benishay.
Welcome, Isaac.
Thank you.
Does everybody see the presentation?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Jesse, and thanks, Paul. Thanks, everyone, for having me. My name is Dan Zadzikowski. I'm the Senior Manager of Government Relations at Flixbus. As Paul mentioned, we've already been in touch, but I thought it was very important before we got our application in that we do this pretty much the way that you want us to do this. I don't think this can happen without your full support. So that is why I am back here again formally now. And I do want to hear your input before we submitted the pre-application statement already, but before we go any further with city planning and having them with their interdivisional meetings and so forth, I just want to make sure that our proposal is totally in line with your vision. So thanks. And next slide, please.
I'll try to call out the slides for the folks that are calling in so they know what slide we're on.
So yeah, just a brief introduction. We've come to the Transportation Committee several times, but as this is the Land Use Committee, I thought, in case you weren't familiar with us, Flixbus is a market leader in long distance intercity bus travel. We're the market leader in Europe. Company's about 8 years old, and we've been in the US for nearly 3 years now, and about 1.5 years in New York City. We did suspend our network entirely earlier this year in 2020. And then we relaunched parts of it. So right now we are running sort of a minimal network, just the most kind of high demand areas. So on the East Coast, that means service between Boston and cities down to Richmond, Virginia. And next slide, please.
Slide 3.
Thanks. And so, yeah, just sort of who we are, really. We're very focused on being a green company offering ecologically friendly transportation and discouraging car ownership, encouraging use of more efficient modes. And so we think that these goals of ours align very closely with the cities, either whether Plan NYC, One NYC, or the community board. We all know there's a lot of traffic congestion in Manhattan, and so we're out there to provide an alternative for people who don't have a car, and really just for everyone. So that is one of our big focuses. Next slide, please. So the site in question, as Paul mentioned, and I think a lot of you are probably familiar with this, is 300 West 31st Street, which is the southwest corner of 31st Street and 8th Avenue. It's kind of catty corner from Penn Station and right across the street to the south from the new, from Farley, the new Moynihan train halt. Next slide, please. So there you can see sort of the typical setup we have. I'll have more pictures later of the lot. But our objective is to utilize this property for bus passenger pickups and drop-offs. So basically, we're taking the activity that's permitted on the curbside everywhere and moving that onto a parking lot. And we've heard from community board, and actually your committee, your transportation committee, really recommended this site to us even. So we do think this is a win-win. It takes, the buses stopping. There's a lot of buses in the neighborhood. It can create conflicts at the curbside. There's people with luggage and so forth. So this just kind of moves that out of the way. And so what's required for us to continue doing this are a special permit from the City Planning Commission and also a related zoning text amendment. And so those items will be the subject of our applications once we do formally submit them to DCP. Next slide, please. Some basic information about the site. I have the block and lot information here in case anyone wants to note that down for their own later research purposes. But basically, the important thing here is the zoning. It's C6 3X, and the lot area is just over 8,000 square feet. And you can see it's sort of an oddly shaped lot there. Next slide, please. Again, here are more photos of the existing site. These were taken just over a month ago. And then there's also an aerial that was from a longer time ago. But basically right now it's being used mostly for parking with still some bus pickups and drop-offs. Our demand obviously is a lot lower right now with COVID. People are not traveling. So we're sort of using it also as a parking lot as well. And that's hourly parking. Next slide, please. So again, just to review, the zoning, wanted to confirm, we basically, it's this little, you can see in the photo on the right, that's the lot fitting within the larger C6 3X area. And next slide, please. So this will be relevant later. You'll see in our proposed, the text amendment, but there are three areas within Community Board 4 that are C6 3X. And so one of these, of course, is the site we're talking about. Another one is down on 23rd Street, basically between 6th and 7th Avenues, and then up 7th Avenue to 26th Street. And then also on 11th Avenue between 53rd and 54th Streets, which is that giant pyramid building. Next slide, please. So here is, I know this is a lot, but what we're looking at here is the relevant zoning resolution text. This is the section for new bus stations with fewer than 10 berths. And you can see in the first paragraph here in all these C1, 2, 4, 6, 7, and 8 districts, or any manufacturing district, the City Planning Commission may permit bus stations with fewer than 10 berths for buses on a site of not less than 20,000 square feet, and then providing a list of conditions. So that's where, this is where it states, you know, this is eligible to be a special permit. And it does say 20,000 square feet there. So I will now get into our proposed amendments to this text. Next slide, please. Okay, so basically the only change of the text that I'm looking for directly, and this is per the recommendation of members of this committee who we had spoken with informally in the past, but basically to alter the 20,000 square feet requirement and reduce that to 8,000. It's, you know, this could have been crafted to apply only to this particular site, but you know, this is my own personal, it feels like we're going through this process. There's probably other places in the city that could benefit from this as well. But this is the only thing that would apply citywide in this proposal. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is all text to be added, and this basically creates a new section. And so following the existing sections, and what this says is, and this is again is trying to craft the amendment to be as narrow as possible, and specifically to apply to so few areas that, I mean, really the goal is that there wouldn't necessarily be any other applicants like this in the future. So it's only within Community District 4 in the Borough of Manhattan, the provisions of section 74-632. So that was the text that we had just looked at, and that would be modified as follows. Paragraph A, and you can see in the bubble on the right that call out what the text here, how this alters the language in the prior section is simply that it eliminates the line about creating serious traffic congestion. So that would, the consideration of creation of traffic congestion would not be considered by the City Planning Commission in deciding to grant the special permit. I mean, I think this board seems to take the progressive opinion, and from what I've seen anyway, that, you know, buses as a public good and a very efficient mode of transportation, they don't create traffic congestion. In fact, they alleviate it. So this just sort of removing that as even a thing to be considered. Next, paragraph B would be modified. The prior section, it states that the principal access of the use is not located on a local street. The staff at the Manhattan DCP office, who we have been in conversation with about this, they couldn't tell me whether or not 31st Street is considered a local street or not. So it just seemed, this is something then we would want to remove from being considered. So in Manhattan Community Board 4, within C6 3X districts, bus stations could be permitted on any type of street. That's what this modification would do. And then next, the paragraph C, that vehicular entrances and exits of such facility are provided separately and not located less than 50 feet apart. The site that we're discussing for the permit is really so small that that's not quite feasible. The requirement to have separate entrances and exits that are located farther apart. So this paragraph would remove that requirement. And then I don't have the call out bubble, but actually, sorry, can we go to the next slide? I think it might be on that slide. Paragraph D. Yes, okay, so paragraph D. Basically, the existing text states that the City Planning Commission needs to, basically parking is required, off-street parking. So any bus station needs to provide off-street parking. I mean, that just seems like that's like an outdated sort of requirement. Maybe in 1961 they thought that made sense, but nevertheless, this modification would state that the commission does not need to require any accessory off-street parking. And next slide, please. So again, yeah, so why I'm here is really to get your feedback on this. I have submitted the PAS to City Planning already, but that's just really the conversation starter with them. So any feedback I get here will certainly be incorporated, and that will really form our plan going forward. So I'm happy to take any questions and do definitely want to hear your feedback. Thank you. Sorry, Paul, if you're speaking, I believe you're muted.
There we go, thanks. So for the benefit of the committee, this applicant has come for casual conversations and informal conversations with me and Betty and Christine and Dale, the co-chairs of the Transportation Committee, so that we could try to figure out which committee should actually tackle this, because as you can see, a lot of the language has more to do with transportation than with land use, but the fact that they're asking for a special permit and a zoning text amendment are a land use issue. I did invite Christine to come tonight, but it was at the last minute, so she isn't able to, I don't think she was able to attend. And the questions we had for the applicant team were to better understand why a ZTA versus just a special permit, what the consequences of a ZTA would have on the rest of the district and the rest of the city. And this block is one of the blocks that's part of the 8 blocks for the Empire Station development, and how would this zoning text amendment and special permit impact the state's plan for redevelopment of this parcel. So that's kind of where we stood, and asked Dan and his team to come in for this presentation so that we could get that information. So with that said, I will open up for members' questions.
Did we get an answer? Paul?
Listen, I just presented what I said I wanted them to present. I'm not offering my opinion on anything yet.
No, that was one of my questions. Well, let me stand back for a second. Okay, I think it's great getting buses off the street and giving them a specific area. But whatever this zoning is, I would make it time limited, because I see this as temporary. One, it's temporary because this is slated for redevelopment. God knows when that will happen, but it still will happen. And I think this, if I remember, you probably are better at it than I am, Paul. this specifically was for housing. This was an affordable housing site. Okay, we don't want to lose that because it has some kind of, bus zoning on it that's specially for that site. So I don't want this to be permanent zoning. And two, it's temporary because if the Port Authority were to build a new bus terminal, and there's rumors that it might be doing that, one of the functions of a new bus terminal would be to get all the buses from the street, from their parking lots, into the new terminal. So this is temporary. I mean, at one point, probably before all of us were born, 8th Avenue had all these parking lot bus terminals. And so in 1948 or 49, someone came up with the idea, let's build a unified bus terminal to get all these parking lots and private bus terminals out of the way. So I say this, it's temporary. And I don't want this kind of special zoning to affect any future development of housing or whatever else goes in on the site and your future movement to some future new bus terminal.
Thanks, Bert. Pam, were you just excited or did you have something to say?
No, I was just saying I've been around longer. I'm one of the few that's been around long enough to remember. Okay. Yes, I have to agree with everything that Bert has said. And if that is a site that was designated for affordable housing, then absolutely this should be a temporary arrangement. I love the Flixbus concept. I think that's great. I like the color of their buses. And I wish them well, but I think there's got to be another way to come at this without changing the zoning permanently. Then I had one other thought, which is since there is presently a requirement for providing 10 parking spaces on street for people coming and going with automobiles, wouldn't there be a loading zone, a space for a loading zone along there that would eliminate that need? Those are my points.
All right, thanks, Pam. Brad, I saw some movement there. Was that a hand raise or just movement? Dave, I see your hand up.
The bus is electric, Paul?
Dan, are the buses electric?
No. So actually, I'm proud to say Flixbus is a leader in trying to get electric buses incorporated into our network. We did run for a while electric buses between San Francisco and Sacramento. And we have a few such routes in Europe, but the technology is really, it has a lot of maturation to do, we'll say, before we can really implement it on a widespread basis.
All right, David, and then we'll go to Marty after David. Brad, did you have something more to say?
No, Paul, it was me. I can't raise my hand.
All right, hold on. Viren, I'll get to you. Kerry, I'll get to you. Brad, did you want to wrap up?
Yeah, I can't support anything that's we've been trying to fight and get these buses electrified. Corner and rezone it. I'm out.
All right. Brad, you look like you're frozen, so I'm going to move on to Dave Holoka.
Okay, Dan, Flixbus makes much of how much ecological sense it makes. If they're not electric buses, what can you tell us about their emissions?
Just compared to a lot of our peers, Flixbus services utilize very newer buses. Our average fleet age is, new buses are never more than 3 years old. And I mean, if you look at some of our competitors, their buses are often, their average fleet age is in the double digits. So these are more efficient, the latest technology and buses, really.
Well, does that mean that they, emit fewer dangerous particles per million than a standard bus, or what can you tell us about that?
I guess I can't speak specifically other than, they just get better gas mileage. And
are they diesel?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. We've had trouble in other locations with diesel buses left to idle for hours, even while they're parked. What are your plans for that?
So all we're proposing to do is, we're taking a activity that's happening already at curbside throughout the district, and we're just moving that to a parking lot. So, yes, we do not idle the buses. When they're stopped.
Okay, and I'm sorry to be a little bit all over the place here, but I do have several questions, and some of them have to do with the zoning change. You said we didn't know whether this was considered a local street or not, but what is the definition of a local street? Why would it be an issue?
I'm just going off of what city planning told me. I'm not really sure what the local street is or not.
Okay, and one of the biggest changes is the requirement that the parking lot be, not a minimum of 20,000 square feet, but of 8,000. Do you know the original zoning rationale for a 20,000 square foot site?
No, I don't. So I guess I can't. I don't really know. No, I don't.
And also, I may have overlooked it in your presentation, but do you have a plan that shows how you would arrange the buses and where the curb cuts would be and how your turning radii would work?
I didn't show that, but basically what I should say is we're not proposing any, first of all, we're not proposing to build anything there. We're not really trying to change anything. Basically, we want to keep it the same as what we were already doing. But the way that the buses come in, they come west on 31st Street, and then they pull into the lot front first and then back into position. And then that way when they're leaving, they can just go straight out. So when we usually, we've only ever had a maximum of 4 buses there at a time, and really can only load 2 buses there at a time, as was shown in one of the earlier photographs that I shared. So basically, we're just looking to continue to do that.
Okay, and finally, I'm a cyclist. Do you have any special storage capacity over an ordinary bus for bikes?
That's something we've been working on. This is actually, I'm of the school that I believe, if there's room under the bus, I like putting them under the bus, but we have different schools of thought on this. We have been, prior to March, we were working on getting racks manufactured that go on the back of the bus that could hold up to 5 bikes. That was probably going to get implemented, I think, in the Northwest first, but there is interest in that within the company. So no specific plans at the moment, but something we are working on.
Great, thank you, Dave.
All right, thanks for the presentation.
Thanks, Dave. So, we're going to go to Marty, then Carrie, then Hector.
Thank you. I want to make, I think, 4 points. I want to echo the comments that Brad made about preferring electric, and David did also, preferring electric buses. I would like to see that in this place. I'm not happy with the removal of the restriction on traffic congestion. There's a lot of traffic in there, and I can see that the buses could back up if there were more than one trying to get in there at the same time. So I am concerned with traffic congestion. I want to echo the idea that these, whatever arrangement is made, that it's clear that it's temporary. It might not be zoning amendments. Bert was trying to get us out of that bag, but I didn't hear it. And finally, if you knew what Paul's comments were before the meeting, I didn't hear any answers to them.
Carrie?
Sorry about that. Thanks. So I'm the least knowledgeable person on this committee regarding these things, but I did have some of the same questions that David did. If you're getting buses off the street, but you're creating a bus hub, even if it's a mini bus hub, what's the impact from those idling buses? And are you doing any kind of environmental study? I don't know if that's a requirement. I ask as well because that is a really very heavily trafficked pedestrian area. The subway's right there, the bus station's right there. So that's one question. Then I'm curious why, just sort of the why of it. You need these amendments. Like there will be a lot of congestion with a number of buses in a small area. So why should we say that we shouldn't be concerned with congestion on the street? And why do you need more space to get in and out? All of the things that you mentioned changing, I'm not sure I got the why part of it. And I asked that because just for my own knowledge, like I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
How many buses could be there at one time? What is the maximum? 10?
So the zoning text has 2 chapters on bus stations, and so they're divided into stations of more than 10 berths, and then stations of, I don't know if it's 10 or less than 10. So that's this physical space really cannot accommodate more than 4 buses. And that's really 2 of them are sort of parked, and then the other 2 are like actively loading. So it's almost, that answers your other question too about, why the text amendment is even needed, because the zoning text doesn't permit any bus stations on sites of less than 20,000 square feet. And so this site being just over 8,000 square feet was not eligible without altering that language in some way. And I guess, should I be saving all the questions till the end, or do you want me to answer these as they come in?
I think you can answer them as they come in.
Okay. So yeah, are we doing an environmental study? Yes, that is this. This permit is a ULURP, and it'll go through the ULURP process. So a environmental analysis is required as part of that. And as far as congestion, we're the ones that schedule the buses, so we would never schedule more than what the lot can handle at a time. I guess there could be traffic congestion elsewhere that would result in more buses coming, but again, since the site can't really handle it, we would have to have another solution. We do have also a couple curbside permits elsewhere in the city. So that could be places where buses go to lay over. And then we also have, our partners have several, they call them yards, but basically where the buses park long-term or where maintenance happens. That happens in Brooklyn and Queens and so forth. So.
You done? So can we move on to, who just said my name? Betty. Betty, yep. Can I let Hector ask his question and then come back to you?
Okay.
Thanks. Hector?
Thanks, Paul. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. So you're asking for a location on 31st Street? Is that what you're looking for? Sorry, I kind of missed the routing.
Right. So we have been leasing this lot and using it to pick up and drop off passengers since summer of 2019. So about a year and a half. It only, we did our due diligence beforehand, but then it became apparent later on that there were some regulatory issues that we were not in compliance with. So this is an effort to get into compliance with those.
Okay, so you're looking to expand along that location where you're parking now on 31st Street? Is that what you're looking for?
No, we're looking only to do exactly the same thing, which just load basically keep using the parking lot to load and unload passengers, 2 buses at a time.
Okay, gotcha. It's just that it's already heavily congested in that area. I'm very familiar with that area. And
Yeah.
I can see the problems you're having there, but so you're I mean, by you requesting what you're asking, isn't that going to add to the congestion that's already there? It's already, I mean, there's a lot of construction going on there, and there's already some other companies parking there as it is. That's my primary concern, but also the routing that you guys are taking. You had mentioned something about 26th Street, which is around my neck of the woods. Are you asking for a route to go through 26th Street, or you guys are already doing that already? Or?
No. The reason I shared where the other C6 3X districts were, which is one does include an area on 26th Street, was just to show that. And this was really getting at now what a number of you have referenced about Paul's requests, that there's a lot of concern about this being precedent setting, and that if this was allowed, it would create opportunities elsewhere within CB4 and in other places, that this kind of request would just continue sprouting up. So with that in mind, we're now proposing that this amendment would only, the text amendment would only apply within CB4, and it would only apply in these districts zoned for C6 3X, so in these 3 small areas. So nothing special about 26th Street, really. Just that was what we were pointing out there.
Okay.
Thank you, Hector.
Okay, I mean, there's still, thank you. There's still
are you
a lot of
done?
unanswered questions here, but yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
No, Hector, if you have more, that's fine. I didn't.
No, I mean, basically, I'm a little concerned because, I mean, let's face it, it's already heavily congested as it is. I mean, right now, obviously, we could use the extra bus capacity because of the situation we're in. But as Bernard mentioned earlier, I would really be concerned about not putting a expiration date on this if it gets passed. Because this is not, things are going to change, obviously. And we're going to and with the new constructions going up all over the place as it is, I fear that this is going to set up to be a major disaster down the road when things get back to normal. So I'd be really concerned and hard pressed to approve something like this at this point the way it is. So I mean, that's just back to okay. Thanks.
One thing I do want to bring up, because sorry, Paul, I've heard a number of people bring it up now. We would love to be in the Port Authority bus terminal. We actually don't want to be using this parking lot. But there's really no other alternative for us. Port Authority bus terminal is, as I'm sure many of you know, it's at capacity. We thought, given what's happening right now, unfortunately, a lot of other bus companies are going out of business. We thought that would create potentially space for new tenants at the Port Authority bus terminal. We've been hounding the Port Authority. We want to get in there, but still they're really not letting in new tenants yet. We'll wait and see. I think I'd heard there'd be some announcement this week about a new or multiple bus terminals. But this isn't our long-term plan. And obviously with the development happening, it's really not going to be a viable long-term plan either. But there's a parking lot there right now, and we would like to continue using it.
So Betty, do you want to express some thoughts?
Okay, that's a good segue. What Dan said about it not being a long-term plan. Obviously, you know that the Empire State Development has a proposal for the whole area there. The Empire Penn Station expansion project, and this site is part of that. And I would like to know if you and the owner have communicated with ESD, and are you familiar with the plan?
I'd like to defer to Isaac here to speak to this.
I believe that I have to speak with the owner. I manage 2 buildings plus the communicate, or at least the regulatory compliance for the lot for the owner. So I don't know what communications the owner has had with Empire State regarding any future development of this area. Pardon me, of these lots.
Okay, I need to express my serious reservations about us supporting this text amendment for this lot, for this location, because of the plans that are on paper for this really huge project, and that we have desires for that, and they have identified different uses, and it's not for a bus lot. So I think, I guess what goes through my mind is to go to all this effort to try to get a text changed in the zoning resolution. Is there not some other temporary fix for this site? I don't know, but anyway, those are my thoughts.
Thanks, Betty. Tui, I'm calling on you, not because you said you wanted to say anything, but just because I can't see or hear you until you speak.
Yes, thank you, Paul. I didn't mean to go last, but I am trying to be polite. Could other people mute? I don't know what's going on. I agree with Betty. One of the things that sounded strange to me in the presentation was that these text amendments were going to be so narrowly construed. It seemed to almost to the point of eliminating other companies that are curbside. Like this would be the only user of this spot, but I mean that is between the lot owner and Flix. But I think the other ones that I think of are Megabus and Vamoose. But the other thing I'm trying to wrap my head around is the 1.5 years in New York City, and I think you said summer of 2019. So is it not based on the pictures that were shown? They're only used as a parking lot now. That particular location isn't being used anymore for the buses currently, correct?
No, it is being used for both car parking and for bus pickup and drop off right now.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm trying to wrap my head around summer of 2019, everything was hunky-dory, and it seemed, if I were to imagine at that time, it seemed to have worked rather well. But because of these regulatory obstacles you're encountering right now, yes, I do agree that it should be a temporary fix. The only word that comes to mind is variance. So if there's some sort of variance with an expiration date, and that might be closer to the Transportation Committee department, that would allow them to be as is until ESB actually, rolls up again, given COVID. I hear you in terms of wanting Port Authority space. I'm pretty sure Venmus and Megabus feel the same way, which is why they're curbside. But the last comment I have, the last page talks about city well, I think there's a mention of city density. And the last page, you really didn't, or page 18 shows how it's a trusted service of cities in transit, and you list all these cities: Tahoe, Oakland, Niagara, Austin, Arizona, Sacramento. But I guess it's my notes. They really don't reflect the city density of New York City. Like none of them are comparable. The closest one might be the pictures you had of San Francisco, and there's a BART logo here. But it's going to be definitely, not something that I could say, oh, because they're in these cities, we would want to make this special exception for this particular space and change these rules for this particular company.
Thanks, Tree. Mike, Mike Noble, I see your hand raised. Is that for this issue?
Yeah, it is.
Great. You're next.
Just a curiosity, well, two things. How active is that spot right now in terms of the number of buses that use it every day? And on the whole, how many buses are there roaming around Manhattan from your company at any one time?
I think I'd have to check the latest. You know, our schedule's been changing a lot lately, mostly reduced frequency. Again, there's not a lot of travel demand at the moment. I think we have something like 6 stops per day right now. I think before COVID, we had been in the neighborhood of 25 stops per day. And they mostly are not roaming around. I would say they're en route to places like Boston and DC. So we do have 2 stop locations currently that we use in Manhattan. The other one's in Chinatown. But only a handful of the routes travel between those 2 points. A lot of the trips from this location are going straight out the Lincoln Tunnel.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. Viren?
Hi, I think most of the questions have been asked, actually. So I'm just going to reiterate everything that Bert and David actually mentioned. One quick question. Are you looking to keep buses parked in this location overnight?
No, this is, no long-term parking storage. This is just basically 10-minute pickup and drop-off stops.
Okay.
So
and
no fueling.
Is...
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, no fueling, no maintenance. This is really just loading and unloading passengers.
Okay, the second question I have is, have you run this by DOT by any chance?
Yeah, again, as I mentioned, we did what we thought was due diligence before we even began service at this location. DOT, like Community Board 4, really liked this. It takes a conflict on the curb and moves it away. So it's basically just the Department of Buildings where we started to run into trouble. So DCP as well, they thought it was fine at first as well. So
David?
Yeah. Can I finish the last question?
Oh, I'm sorry, Viren. Yeah, you finish up.
No, the main thing is that if it is temporary and it's a special permit for a particular duration, I think that might fly. But for this to try and make a permanent change across the sort of, different parts of the city is something I'm uncomfortable about. So if it is for temporary period, would you be able to sort of project how long that might be?
Right. So, I mean, I think that's a good question. I'm not sure if we can, I think that's something that the permit, the Planning Commission could determine with granting the permit. But I mean, as far just generally bigger picture too, like I don't think the quote unquote highest and best use of this location is going to be a lot with buses picking up and dropping off. I mean, the DEIS for Penn Station, I think it has a build year of 2026 or something, which probably is not realistic. But nevertheless, like we know in a few years, something a little bit more revenue generating is going to come along. And so I hear a lot of concern about this being long term, but I don't think that is really a viable, just economic option. I can't speak for the property owner, but.
So you're not proposing a duration. You will probably hear it from DCP if at all this moves forward for any kind of temporary use. If they put any stipulation, that's what you will follow. But you're not proposing any stipulation right now.
No, I mean, I'm it sounds like I'm hearing a lot of you would like a time stipulation, which I'm happy to. That makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm not actually sure how that works when they grant the permit. But that sounds reasonable to me. I don't know if you all...
I think it would make it. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead.
No, I'm blind right now because I'm on the phone, so I can't see you when you're about to speak. So unfortunately, I speak over your speaking. That's not my intention. The last thing I was going to say, that it would make the community feel much more comfortable if we knew that this is going to be for temporary use and what that duration might be, and that would make things easier for us to follow. And this is just for my committee members. I think this is something definitely that should be discussed jointly with Transportation Committee.
Vera, we're in agreement on that. Is that it, Viren?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, I'm going to go to David and then Carrie. David?
Right, I absolutely agree with Viren that we should discuss it together with transportation. This may have been mentioned before and I missed it, but who currently owns the lot? Dan, could you tell us?
They're called Kadem Realty.
And they're currently running it as a commercial parking lot?
No, they lease it to LAZ parking, and then we have an agreement with LAZ.
Right, but it's currently being used as a parking lot for cars, correct?
It's being used as a parking lot for cars and for the bus pickups and drop-offs.
Okay, I'm just wondering if the change in the zoning text amendment would actually, affect at all the mechanism by which this site might be taken over for use as affordable housing or the development of Penn Station. Is it really going to change anything since it's already being used and leased and it's privately owned? That's one question. And the other thing that I'd point out is that I wouldn't want to stand in the way of eliminating a lot of parking spaces for individual cars that could instead be parking spaces for buses, which are inherently more environmentally friendly. So that's just sort of for committee discussion.
Carrie?
Yes, thanks. I just have one clarifying question. Maybe I got this wrong. Are you saying that if these get approved, that they will apply to all three locations that you mentioned, the one on 23rd wrapping around 7th Avenue, the one you're requesting, and then the one, I think it was on 26th? So it's like a 3-for-1?
Right. I mean, theoretically, this language would apply to all of those areas.
Right.
If there's if there's another strategy, you can read text that's like from a point curvilinear to this and all that stuff. But all those other areas have like a bunch of buildings on them.
Right.
I don't see. It's hard to imagine.
Right.
That it would ever be worthwhile to remove a building to build something that can handle a couple buses
the reason I'm asking is because if it is a 3-for-1, then, and I think about like 7th Avenue and 23rd Street, there is no parking lot where, that you could remove the cars and add the buses, and so it doesn't make sense in my head where that happens. So then does that mean that happens on the street? Like, I'm not quite sure.
Right.
It is. Sorry. Go ahead. So that was my question, basically. So could we grant it to you, but not to the other two, or do we have to do all three, or?
So this was a goal to make it a very narrow application, and so that it wouldn't really apply to really any other places. There are, I guess, as you pointed out, a couple small areas where it also does apply, but again, anyone wanting to use any of those sites within these 3 areas would then need the special permit.
Okay. I think we're going to wrap up. I'll make my comments last. So Dan, I think you probably picked up what I'm going to say based on Bert's initial question, and based on Betty's assessment that we're not inclined to support this at this point. That you have not, in my opinion, thoroughly answered the questions that you were asked before to present here. Why are you going for a zoning text amendment versus an alternative? The questions that came up about the temporariness of this situation and of this lot is really relevant to the question of asking for a zoning text amendment versus some other avenue for you to follow. We are not convinced that the relationship with the impact on the ESD proposal has been adequately addressed, and we're not certain how that is going to come into play. The questions that David asked about the why 20,000 versus 8,000, what is a local street? I believe at our last informal meeting, it was recommended to you that perhaps you use a land use attorney who's very well versed in the history of New York City zoning, that if you're going for a zoning text amendment, it is a major obstacle and hurdle to go across. You have not built the comfort level within the remarks I'm seeing on this committee that we are prepared to support that kind of movement. The question about how this is going to impact other districts and the narrowness at which you define this to just be within Community District 4 is perhaps problematic. I don't know if the city would support a zoning text amendment that has such a narrow definition. Clearly, if you come back before this before the board for a full vote in a formal capacity, you will have to come to both transportation and land use committees, because half of our questions were about how the buses move, where they go, where they park, how they move about. Those are transportation questions that will certainly have to be answered. I think that Betty's consensus, and I would agree, is that we're not in a position now to support something like this, and that there's a lot of work yet to be done and a lot of unanswered questions.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you everyone for the time and the questions.
Hey, and I just wanted to ask, this is for Jesse, I guess. Since I couldn't see either of the presentations tonight, would it be possible the applicants could give the presentations to you so you could share it for me and Viren and Tweed, those of us on the phone who can't see the visual?
Betty, do you hear me?
Yes.
Tweed, please let Jesse answer.
Hi, Betty.
The answer is yes?
Well, no, yes, the answer is yes, but the presentations are all in the Dropbox that I sent out earlier today and then last week. So the link
I'm sorry. I didn't realize the same slides that were shown tonight are in the Dropbox. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Both
so
exist in the Dropbox for all of you.
Okay.
That's what I try to do before the committee meeting, so you guys. So just in case this happens, we have it.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Isaac.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pam, are you waving goodbye, Pam, or are you trying to ask a question?
No, I had one brief question. Since this is obviously a temporary arrangement and these guys really are interested in getting into Port Authority, could CB4 support that effort in any way? Maybe a letter or something that would encourage the Port Authority people to consider their proposal to get space inside that building with some alacrity. That's just what I wanted to say.
Yes, I'm sure that would come before the Transportation Committee, though, and that they would, but Jesse wants to tackle that one.
So I would recommend that. Yes, Jesse.
I would say we have a standing request for the Port Authority to present to Transportation Committee, hopefully this month, maybe next month, on the current bus operations in the terminal as it relates to COVID and all of that. So I think that could be a perfect place to raise that as a question and thought as to once we hear the results of their presentation. So I think that is a place.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Pam. The next topic, there is a proposed zoning text amendment for special permits to be issued for all hotels. Special permit areas would cover C1 through C6 districts. Many of you, or I don't know how many actually, might remember, in 2018, the city had asked for special permits for hotels in M1 districts. The board has taken a position on that in 2018 that it looks like Bert wants to talk about. It said that we support the idea of special permits, but the public use purpose of hotels within these areas was problematic, which was exempted from special permits. The city is looking to have a special permit process that's consistent across all of the C1 through C6 districts to make hotel applicants all have, and so right now it's a patchwork of permitting for hotels, and they want to make it consistent. Clinton Hell's Kitchen Land Use Committee is also meeting tonight, and they're reviewing the same zoning text amendment. And more of the impacted areas are in the northern part of our district in Hell's Kitchen. So they're going to have more of a tackling to do with that. But I wanted to make sure it was brought forward to this committee that if anybody had issues or concerns with the special permit zoning text amendment for hotels, that we can have that opportunity for discussion. I think that what we would propose is that we would probably be consistent with our 2018 position that special permits are fine, but that we would want to have public purpose functions not be exempt from the special permit, which is currently the case in the M1 districts. Jesse, you look like you had something to add.
Yeah, I just want to, and I thought that maybe that we're at the scoping session right now, right? Phase of this. That this again this will be coming back out as a citywide text amendment that we'll have it'll be certified and have an official response period to. So just in terms of where we are in the process and how we're thinking about this, it's we're sort of thinking about how we want to what do we want to include if we want to include something in terms of questions or review, environmental review. That's the only thing I would add.
Yeah, good point. Thank you, Jesse.
Paul?
Betty, go ahead.
Yeah, I would support our position as we stated it in the last letter about public purpose hotels. Two things about that. One is, I think since we're talking about draft scope, we might frame it as this should be considered as an alternative in the final scope, so that it could be studied to see if there's some different impacts. In other words, they would have to analyze that. If you did it the way we want to do it, they would have to analyze it. And just in case everybody was wondering about this some more, this is a fear that Community Board 4 has, that a crafty hotel developer could get involved in a public purpose hotel and not get a special permit, and then once it's established as a hotel, then it could slide into being a not public purpose hotel, but it could slide into being a regular hotel, and we don't want that to happen. That's it.
Thanks, Betty.
I'm done.
Yes.
I'm done.
So, but as Jesse points out, if we want to think about, much like we did with the coastal flood resiliency, much like we did with Start Lehigh, what we want to think about is if there's a issue for the scope that we want studied and the impact of the zoning text amendment, that the zoning text amendment itself will come back to us for further consideration, but this is an opportunity to discuss what would go into the scope. Bert, you looked excited to talk.
I'm not sure I'm excited to talk, but I do have something to say. I mean, somehow the last subject excited me more than this. I don't know why. Anyway, you looked at what the proposed, this is the scope for the EIS that they're going to do. So we're really commenting on, like Jesse said, what are you going to study in the EIS? And I got, they talked about projecting after COVID, and you normally would project for 10 years. So we're not projecting to 31. We're going to project everything is going to get back to normal. in 25. So we're going to project to 2035. So their EIS will be 2035. What year is it? Yeah, 2035. And so the EIS will be studying hotel demand, and this is in the context of hotel demand to 2035. And they have two alternatives. One, I forget the difference. One with more hotel demand, one with less hotel demand. All I'm going to say is, yesterday, the governor proposed in his state of one of his states of the state, and it's only a proposal. We have nothing concrete or anything about converting hotels, helping hotels convert from hotel use to residential and or commercial. Hotels and commercial space into residential. Unused hotels, unused commercial into residential. And so all I request is that they acknowledge that possibility, government help in doing it, not just the market doing it, but government help in doing it. And how does that affect their projections and their need for the special amendments? That's all. It's not particularly exciting, but that's it.
I see Mike Noble and David Halaka's hands up on the chat box. Is it for this issue or is it for a past issue? David?
Mine was for a past issue. The only concern that I would have about this is, the possibility of having areas that are overly dense with hotels, changing the character of a neighborhood. So
that's
if there could be something in the impact statement studying that, I think it would be helpful.
Yeah.
And try to figure out how to get my hand down here.
That's all right. Mike, I'm going to assume that your hand is up from a past issue as well. If not, speak up.
No, it's this one. Let me announce my ignorance on this, The public purpose, the distinction, and what is the importance of not having an exemption any longer.
The language is a little bit funky. So with the M1 special permit, a special purpose use where the city agency uses the hotel for a special purpose was not required to have a special permit. And what we found is that these hotels that now have homeless shelters in them, there was no opportunity for the community to speak out on that because it did not require a special permit for that to occur. So
that answers that.
We had pointed out when the M1 special permit process came forward, we had requested that a special permit be issued, a special permit be required for public purpose use. They did not include that. And now we're in a situation where these hotels in manufacturing districts and commercial districts have public purpose use that is having a negative impact on our community. And if a special permit had been issued, we may have had the opportunity to voice our concerns before the problems really got exacerbated. So I think what we're trying to do is, in this process, echo that when special permits are issued in C1 through C6 districts, that we ask for a special permit for public purpose use of these hotels. Does that make sense, Mike?
Great, that's perfect. That's a great idea too.
All right, Marty?
I sort of will dovetail with what Mike just said. I need an education. I was looking at all these documents and I read the main letter that was the 2018 letter that was about another set of issues. I'm not a hotel expert. I need much more education about this looks like a complicated document that we're being asked to approve. I don't have the knowledge to approve it or deny it. So I'm hoping that we can find a way, if in fact we have to vote on this, to spend some time, if not tonight, and I hope it won't be tonight, educating our members about the complexities of hotels and their zoning and of their special permitting and so on. So I I looked at these documents and I said, oh my God. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Marty. Because I can't see hands or what, I'm just going to say, Twee, any comments?
Yeah,
Vera?
I echo that. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yep, go ahead.
I echo that sentiment because what came to mind was when you said that I think the Clinton committee is meeting at the same time. Does that mean that they have someone speaking about the draft scope of work presentation that's 26 pages?
No.
It seems no one. It's just all internal. No one's speaking on any or no one's presenting any of these.
Correct. As far as I know, Jesse, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, DCP is not doing presentations.
No, DCP is not doing presentations. We can certainly ask DCP to come and present. You know, in the past, we'll see what we can get. Sometimes they are willing to present on citywide things like this. They obviously were with the flood resiliency. We hope to see if they can do so with this. Again, though, we're just to clarify for Marty and others that what you're voting on tonight is not an approval permit or the application. You're not voting on the approval of the application. You would be voting on a discussion of what you guys think should be included in the scope of the environmental impact study. So that's what you would be voting on tonight. You'll have the official bite at the apple during certification of this process when it does. That's not to say that clearly the project the application will be pretty much baked at that point. So if you can't sort of go backwards and say, well, we want you to include something like this at the certification period, because that's just, the scope is when you had that opportunity. So that's all I would.
That's just to follow up on what Jesse's saying, is that recall the Starrett Lehigh Terminal Warehouse letter that we wrote. Most of the wording it's not approve, disapprove, or with conditions like our other letters. It was talking about there should be analyses that focus on blah, blah, blah. There should be a study of the implications of blah, blah, blah. We had one where we wanted a lower cap on destination retail in the letter from 15% to 10%. We suggested that be an alternative to be studied. So it's really, these are just like that other letter, comments for the scope, comments of what will go into the DEIS. That's it.
So Marty, your hand is back up. You're muted, I think. Marty, you're muted. I can't hear you.
I should be muted when I'm not talking, right? Sorry. It's exactly Betty's blah, blah, blahs that I don't feel I know enough even to begin to address. So I need more information.
Okay. Viren, do you have anything to add?
No, I think I would just echo the same sentiments. And I think Jesse's recommendation is good. If we can get someone from DCP to come and speak to us, that would definitely help, especially now, because no one knows what the post-COVID scenario is going to be for hospitality market. And I don't know what kind of changes that might prompt. And this is a draft scope, so it would be a good time for them to come and speak to us.
Okay. I will add that the comment period for this particular scoping document is at the end of this month. So we won't have DCP come and present on the scope itself. But I do think it's worth, Jesse, asking DCP to have somebody come in. Maybe we do a joint meeting of both land use committees. DCP can present just on this issue to the two of us at the same time, maybe in February or March or something like that. Bert?
Yeah, Darren and everybody, they make the assumption in their scoping for their EIS, they make the assumption that in 2025, this is their assumption, I'm not saying I agree with it or any of us would agree, that in 2025, the hospitality industry will resume at 2019 levels. Is that a valid assumption? That's what they assume.
Bert, I totally agree with what you're saying. I had to say, I read this document and I totally agree. How the heck are they going to know in 2035 what the hotel situation is going to be? And I appreciate you said that the governor announced, I didn't catch that today, that there would consider proposals for converting hotels to residential or I guess office use, but that seems like that's pretty dismal right now. But I think that's a really major question about the analysis here.
All right. So what I'm hearing is that, and keep in mind that Hell's Kitchen Land Use will have their issues as well. As I think you all know, I serve on the Hell's Kitchen Land Use Committee as well, but so that we can have some overlap. But because there's a conflict in scheduling, we overlapped in actual meetings tonight. So I will take notes from Betty. Betty and I will combine our notes, and then I will then work with JD Nolan, who's chair of Hell's Kitchen Land Use, and integrate our concerns into their letter that would then be brought to full board. So what I'm hearing is that we want to make sure to include some alternatives in the scope that question the numbers in the analysis of the projections. We want to include the impact of a public use permit and the exemption of that permit, and that we want to look at the impact of the government helping of converting hotels to residential and commercial, and have that be part of the overall analysis of the scope. Is there anything I'm missing there? All right, so I would, I think I'm going to need to entertain a motion to support a merging of the letters with the Hell's Kitchen Land Use to incorporate our 3 points.
I make a motion.
Thank you, Bert. Hector, I see your second. I'm going to say all those in favor say aye, and then I'm going to be more careful about anybody present not eligible. Anybody voting negative. So it looks like unanimous approval.
No, you didn't ask for abstentions. I'm sorry. I appreciate your summary and I think it's brilliant, but I still feel that I don't know enough that you've added 3 points and it should be 4 or 5. We're uneducated about this, and so I have to abstain. I'm sorry.
All right. Unanimous with 1 abstention from Marty.
No, this is Twee. I agree. I abstain.
And Twee abstains. Okay.
Got it.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. This will be our last WebEx meeting.
I hope so, please.
I want to apologize to everybody about this. You know, we will resolve this. You know.
I will say that, you know, me, Betty, Jesse, district manager, staff, we did a test run of this to see if it would work, and we had no glitches or problems. So of course it had to happen tonight when we were all doing the formal meeting. But we will find an alternative and see if we can for next time. And I know that next month we're also overlapping, so we will have to have something other than Zoom. So be prepared.
How about GoToMeeting? GoToMeeting.
We'll look at GoTo. We'll look at
GoToMeeting.
Google Meets also has a good platform. There's a variety of platforms. We'll experiment with some others during the month.
Hey, Paul.
So I'm seeing.
Can I get one more in?
Jesse, thank you so much.
Hold on. I'm gonna go Viren, Marty, Pam, Betty. Viren.
Yes.
Did you have something to say? Okay.
No, I wasn't saying anything. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry, Marty.
I just want to say, given the technology that we're using, and I'm hoping I'm reflecting what other people that have participated tonight, stuff happens and you did a great job.
Thank you so much, Marty. That's kind of you. Pam.
It occurred to me that the second item that we addressed tonight about the bus, the Flixbus thing, was that not something we were to vote on? And no, good. There was no need to take a vote on that because we didn't.
Correct. No, that was
Okay.
an informational session only. They were seeking
Fine.
our thoughts.
Got it. Okay. Just
So,
wanted to be sure.
yeah. And Betty, you get to wrap.
Oh, no, I just wanted to thank Jesse and Paul, who you
No,
were
no.
both trying so hard to get me involved. So I appreciate that.
Betty, I can't believe that I conquered the technology and you didn't.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many times I tried to get into this call. I must have been 25 times.
Many, many thanks to Jesse for his patience as always. I don't know how he manages us all the time. So thank you, Jesse, for all that you do.
Hey, one more word, Paul, please.
Okay. Okay.
All right, everybody.
Paul, one more word, Paul, please.
What?
I have one more comment.
I'm sorry, Mike. I didn't see your hand up or anything. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is an update on NYCHA, mainly for Betty and Hector. You know, there was one of those resident engagement meetings today, and I must tell you, the few people who attended had incredible questions. These people sounded like they were professionals at this, not just residents. And I got to ask the question that came out of the newsletter that I sent around to you about work orders being closed out and the mold consent decree and all that business. I asked Greg Russ about that, okay? And his answer to that was, as far as the mold stuff goes, you know, once you either convert or, convert tax conversion or use this blueprint deal, all the work that's going to be done will address the mold. So that's his answer to that, which is not really satisfactory.
Mike, I think that I would love to talk to you more about this because I didn't go to this tenant engagement meeting, but I think probably some people want to eat their dinner now.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up so that you guys knew what's happening. I mean, there are things that are happening.
Yes, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Mike, I'm sorry, not to belabor this, but are we talking about the city council meeting that they had earlier today at 1 o'clock? Because I was on that one.
No,
that was brought up.
Greg Russ is a resident one, huh?
Oh, okay. So you were on a different one. I was actually on the city council one, and it was specifically toward the PAC RAD, and there was a lot of stuff going around, and that was actually brought up as well. And the answer is that, yeah, the mold, unfortunately, it looks like, they're trying to pass some better guidelines on that. Okay, so it's not a dead issue. Initially, yeah, they were saying that, oh, well, the new management will have to handle that. But no, basically, they're going back to HUD with this, and hopefully they're going to come back with a more solid answer when it comes to that. So it's kind of in limbo at this point.
All right.
Thanks, Mike. And I do want to thank the people on the NYCHA working group, because we have had a lot of intersections between the work that we do here and what's coming out of the NYCHA working group. And it's because of people like Hector and Mike and Betty and Elzora who go to those other meetings and come to our meetings, and that overlap. Particularly some concerns on the coastal flood resiliency, which the NYCHA group was unaware that there was a zoning text amendment that would impact the NYCHA campuses. So the work that we're doing is very successful and helpful that we're all working together. So thank you all.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Okay,
everybody.
great.
Are we adjourned?
Okay, thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Night. Thank you all.
Good night.
Thank you, Paul.
Be well, everyone.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Almost. I got your text. I was laughing so hard. It's like, oh.
I can't figure out how to stop recording. Okay. Good night, Paul.
Good night, Jesse. Take care.
You did a great job tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No, you too. Thank you so much.
Kidding me?